Hi guys, today I'm starting work on the wall carpet fabric in the van. It's kind of a job I don't know if I'm not looking forward to doing it because of the job at hand, or whether it's just that I'm itching to move on to more constructive projects in here. I'm itching to start making like the bed base and getting a mattress in here and the kitchen cabinets and stuff, and just to be done really. But I can't do any of that until all the prep work's done, and I'm not the biggest fan of prep work. So I have bought, I can't remember how many meters, but I bought a fair amount of like carpeting fabric for vehicles. It is relatively smooth on one side and fluffy on the other, and I decided to go with beige. Mostly you can get various shades of grey, and I'm not well, I do like grey, but I wanted the feel in the van to have a kind of a cozy feel as opposed to a cool crisp look. So I've gone with the beige, and we have re-rolled this so that the outside is on the inside of the roll so that I can roll it up onto the wall, and I've made sure that the what is called the nap, as that's the direction that the fluff goes, is facing down over. So when you run your hand down it feels smooth, as opposed to when you run your hand up and it kind of feels rough, and that is called the nap. So I'll need to make sure that every part of the van, the nap is down over rather than up over. To put this on the walls I have spray adhesive, which I'm throwing around the van. I have a little bit left of this one, I have most of this can, and that's all I have for now. So this might not all get done today. In fact, I suspect it won't. Finding spray adhesive on the island at the moment, it's like hen's teeth. I bought the last can of this about 3 weeks ago from HIS, and when I went in the other day they still had no more of it. They had another brand which was like £20 a tin, and I didn't want to spend that much. This is only about £10 a tin. It just says only, but you know, it's half the price. And then I went to K2 in Kirkwall, which is another kind of all sorts kind of homewares DIY shop, and they had this brand of spray adhesive, Stick Attack, and this one, I think this one was only £6 a tin, and I used a little bit of it the other day for, what did I use it for? I used it for something, I don't remember what, but it worked just as well. So hopefully, this was the last can as well, but hopefully they will get some more in stock. We went in at the weekend when some should have come in and there was still none on the shelf. So, and I'd been in every other shop in Kirkwall trying to find spray adhesive. My next stop I think will be Allen's in Stromness, if you know the Orkney Islands. So I'm kind of fighting the weather and the sun here, so I'll have to be moving around a wee bit. We did have hailstones a few minutes ago, and it is quite cold, which is not ideal for using spray adhesive. This says to be used, I think it's above 10 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius, and in the van it is 7.5, but if I wait for it to be 10 I'll be waiting another month, so we're just going to have to work with that. Also, I did discover that I only really need to put the spray adhesive on one surface, one side. You kind of hear that you need to put spray adhesive on both surfaces, but that's actually not true. So like on this tin for example, it tells you if you have like a smooth surface like the van, you only need, and you're attaching an absorbent surface like the carpeting, you only need the spray adhesive on one side. You need it on both surfaces when you are attaching, say, fabric to fabric, where you have two absorbent surfaces. So that's good, that means that should hopefully go further. This one just tells you the amount of coats that you put on depends on how strong a bond you want. So we're just going to see how it goes and work, you know, try it and see what happens basically. So as for applying the carpet, I intend to put carpet over the whole of this side of the van, and I will be tucking the edges in to the rubbers that go around the doorways. I will probably need to remove these, but I will leave that till the end. I will just cut the fabric a little bit longer, not spray it right up to the edge, and then I can remove the rubbers, spray adhesive, get the carpet on, and then add the rubbers back on again. and that's only really around the doorways, the back door and the side door. At the top it will just go, if I can get my camera to go up, it'll just tuck up to above where the ceiling boards will be, and the same goes for the floor. I will tuck it down below floor level, or to floor level, below where the vinyl and what have you will go. The doorways I will be doing slightly different. I have some rubber trim to fit on the door with super glue before I put the carpeting on the doors, but I will show that when I get to that point. I know this is a lot of waffle at the beginning, so I do apologise for that. And what I intend to do is, when the carpet goes on, I'm not going to be cutting out where these the wool insulation is. The carpet will just go across the whole lot. It will help keep the fibres in from coming into the van when I'm using it, and it'll just create another layer of insulation. And because it's fabric, it's not going to work like a vapour barrier, which will keep vapour behind it. It still has that breathability with it just being a fabric. So I'll be covering the whole lot and just gluing into the kind of recess and working the carpet in. As it is a 4-way stretch fabric, it'll mould around all the different lumps and bumps and curves. So I best get started. Okay, so I've attached the fabric onto this side most of the way. I'm leaving the edges free at the moment and along the top of where the doorway is. So my next job is to knock the rubbers off this door frame, and then spray adhesive all the way up to the edge, being sure to not get any on my bodywork on the outside. I'll probably use a bit of cardboard or something just so the wind doesn't waft it around, and then stick this carpet right the way down to the edge, and then I will trim off the excess, and then hopefully the rubbers will knock back on okay. Weather has been holding things up the last few days, but back at it again this morning, and it is time to start adding, well, and before I can do the carpet fabric on the doors, I need to add some rubber trim for the edges of the carpet to fit into. So on the walls the carpet is able to tuck into the main large rubbers on the doorways, but on the doors obviously we don't have that option. There's like one piece of external trim on the smaller of the back doors, and that's it. So what I have is some of this rubber U trim. This was one of 2 tips that I got from Van Ventures with Jodie that I'll be actually using for this carpeting part. This stuff is, I think it's 4mm by 10mm. It's just rubber trim. I think it's called U trim, and it is very thin and simple. words today, thin and basic. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be gluing these onto the doors. I will turn my camera slightly. Gluing onto the edges where the carpet comes across the doors and will slot into these rubber trims. So what I've done is I've gone around all of my doors with them closed with the rubber trim and just marked on the inside of those of the trim in strategic places. Some places I don't need to mark all the way down, like along the edge of the door or anything like that, and then around the curves at the tops of the doors and the bottoms of the doors and such like that, where I want the carpet to fit. So what I bought is quite a lot of meterage of this stuff. In fact, I have 2 of these licorice wheel whirls of this trim, and I'm just going to be gluing this on with super glue. I got a big bottle of this and hopefully it'll be enough to do all of these doors. I assume it will be, because super glue goes quite a long way, and I'll just be putting a little bit, tiny line all the way on the side of the rubber, just going along a little bit at a time as I fit this trim onto the doors, and then I can get the rest of this fabric glued on and tucked in. I have had to do some strange bits of shaping for like around the top of the back doors here, so the trim will come up along this edge, but then when it gets to here it has to do this really weird shape here, because I have some trim on the top of the other door here which acts like a drip catch for the rubber trim, to feed it down the rubber trim down the back door. So to not interfere with this, I have had to account for that. So I've got this first back door done, and honestly it's been a bit of faff. I'm struggling to get the super glue to set. I don't know if it's just because it's 2 non-porous surfaces or whether it's just because it's so cold today, but it does take a long time for the super glue to set these the rubber to the metal. It is set now, I mean it's on there solid, but you're having to hold it for quite a long period of time. It's not just like a 10-second thing, it's more like 30 seconds, kind of move on, and even then it's still sticky and tacky and will move around, and it's difficult to hold it in position. It kind of slides, but it is solid on there now. I'm just waiting for this last top corner to set, and then I can close this door. It's gone quite cold now, so I'm going to go have a cup of tea and then come back to this. The first door took quite a bit of time, but I've got a bit of a system going now, so it's not so bad. So it seems to stick better if you add the glue to the rubber rather than to the metalwork of the van. So I've been adding glue for about 10 or 12 inch lengths at a time, and then holding it on and gently pressing on the flat part rather than the whole part of the rubber, just on the flat edge for, I don't know, about 10 seconds per section with my fingertips, and working my way along. To cover these side sliding doors, I'm going to have to take off these handles. Should be a relatively easy job. There is just 2 kind of nut screws behind this lever pit. I will show you in a moment, but the sun's going to shine oddly if I open the door right now. So you can see these like screw head nuts in here. There's one here at the top and one at the bottom. A screwdriver hasn't been able to get these out, so I'm going to work with a socket next on the actual nut head. I'm going to be using the pieces that I cut out of the doorway to cover the actual doors themselves. There is enough on them, fortunately, even taking into account the curving around like the top here and what have you, but I have to be really careful on how I position it, because if I position it wrong I'm going to be short of fabric in either the bottom or the sides or what have you. So I just want to get it a rough position, and then I will kind of glue onto this area but not too close to the edges, because I need to trim off the fabric short enough that it will fit into the rubber trim that I've super glued on. Now the tricky part, now that it's kind of stuck roughly on where I want it, I'm going to be using actually my fabric scissors, which I've been reluctant to use up until now, but I think it's the only thing that's going to cut this neatly. My kitchen scissors are just not sharp enough. So it's going to be tricky on these whilst the door is closed. I will open it in a moment, but so I'm going to cut the fabric so it's just long enough that it will tuck into the thin rubber trim that I stuck on earlier, and then I will peel back where necessary and add extra glue, and then stick it down and tuck it into the rubber trim. I will also be cutting round random bits like the door catch, similar to if you are wallpapering around a light switch. Now I don't know if this is the same in the US, but in the UK, when you unscrew a socket, electrical outlet or a light switch, all the electrics are actually attached to the front of the switch. That is both for electrical outlets and light switches. I think in the US, electrical outlets, the fronts come off and then all the electrics are kind of inside the back box. But that's not the case in the UK. So if you are wallpapering, unless you want to disconnect the electrics, the easiest way is to loosen off the front, pull it out, you know, a couple of millimeters so it's kind of still attached. Cut around slightly smaller than your hole and tuck your wallpaper behind it, and then just screw it back on. Or that's the way that I was taught when I was a kid. So I'll be doing a very similar thing for things like where the catches go and on the back door where the handles are, rather than, well, I'm not sure how else you would do it, but that's the way I'm going to do it. So for doing these awkward places where I have to make a join, like here I've got the back above the doors and the side wall, and there's obviously going to be a join here. What I've done is make a rough pencil line of where I want this join to be, and I'm going to be using these scissors, and I got this tip from Van Ventures by Jodie, or Van Ventures with Jodie, and these are Applique scissors. They have like a dog leg on the handle here, and they have one really flat blade, a wide flat blade, and one cutting blade, so you can get really close against your surface without your fingers and knuckles getting in the way whilst you cut, so you can get it really close. So I'm going to glue them together along that line and snip off the excess. So that's all of the carpeting fabric glued onto the walls and everywhere. I've even done the side pillars where the seat belts are held onto at the front. They've all been carpeted, and I even carpeted this wheel arch on this side. This is where my bed will be. We changed our plans on what we were going to do and how we were going to build the cupboard and the bed, but I can talk about that in a later video even, not a later video. I've just foam insulated the one on the kitchen side, but I wanted the carpet on this one because my mattress will actually be touching the top of this. I need it to do so that I have enough head height when sitting on the bed. And I managed to do all this palaver on this back top section above the door as well. That took quite some time. I'm really surprised at how much difference it's made just doing these last little bits compared to having the walls and everything done, and then today getting those pillars done, and the whole look together, just it looks so much more cohesive instead of these bits that are white metal and bits of the carpet. It's just made a huge difference today, so I'm really pleased with it. I think there's still room for improvement on my joins. Just keep nibbling it away with those special scissors. Where the glue has set hard, I'm just kind of trimming them off, almost like cutting off little bits of, like, it's almost like scar tissue on the edge of a cut, and just keep working at it and fluffing up the pile on the fabric to kind of blend it in. But other than that, I'm really happy. I'm getting blinded by this low winter, well, spring sun. We're still very low, and I'm going to leave it there for this video. So thank you for watching, and hope you've stuck around till the end, because I suspect this will have been a relatively long one, and I shall see you on the next video. Bye bye.